with you. I am mobile, so if I'm moving a whole lot, y'all just bear with me. But y'all used to me moving anyway, so it is what it is. But good morning. I am excited to be here with you all on today. I'm going to do, Arax wanted me to do the lesson from last week, and I have been toiling and going through with that one. So I'm going to do a little bit of that one. So and I'm going to splash it with a little bit of what God has just dropped on me he had to call to my remembrance. And so I'm thankful to Katrina because she had a post the last week or before, and it was kind of similar to what we're going to get into today. So shout out to Katrina because she kind of jump started this a little bit for me. So if you're looking for a tag or for your title, it's going to be still and remember Yahweh. So in this particular lesson that we were talking about, it seems like there's been a lot of things going on in people's lives, a lot of things that are going on in the world. Things are happening where people are just going and going and going. And being women of God, we are consistently on the go. You plan one thing and then something else happens, and there's always more that you have to endure or you have to pivot and redo. And it just seems like that's just how life has been for a lot of people. And so I started off last week with this story. So I'm going to tell this story again, and then I'm going to give you 3 points, talk about who Yahweh is, and then the lesson will be yours. So the story goes that there was a little girl who was playing on the playground. And so she's on the playground and she is being chased by all of the kids. She's known to be kind of picked on. There was a lot of stuff that is going on. And she's running away. And so as she is running away while all of the friends are trying to come after her, she spots her teacher, who is like the authority figure. So she runs to the teacher and she says, teacher, 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 I need your help because the kids, they're coming after me and they're chasing me. And I don't want them to get me. And I need you to help me in the middle of what I'm going through. And so the teacher just looks at the little girl and she says, okay, I need you to be still, take a breath, and focus on me. And the little girl is still looking at all of the kids, still chasing and still swirling around her and still trying to chase after her and go after her. And she's like, teacher, help me. You don't understand. They're coming and they're trying to get me. And the teacher simply says, I need you to be still, take a breath, and focus in on me. And so the little girl still is, you don't get it. They're going to come after me and they're wanting to chase after me. And you don't understand what's happening, what's going on with me. And I need for you to help me. And she says, I need for you to be still, focus in on me, and take a breath. And so finally, the little girl, after she has exasperated and actually takes a moment to stop and listen to what the teacher says, she actually takes a breath and she stops. And as she's taking the breath and she is actually stopping and focusing in on the teacher and what is going on, the teacher says, okay. And she turns the little girl around and she says, now I want you to look at everybody else. As she turns the little girl around, all of the other kids are no longer chasing after her. All of the other kids have went on about their business and they're not even focused in on the little girl anymore. And so the little girl looks up a little puzzled and she's trying to figure out, well, what happened? And the teacher said, as long as you were standing and being still in front of me, the other kids weren't going to bother you because I am the authority. I am the one that they will not mess with. So as long as you were standing, as long as you were being still, you took a breath and you focused in on me, everybody else and everything else that was going on had to stay away. They didn't have to focus in on you because you were standing in front of the authority. My sisters, on today, I want us to understand that that little girl is all of us on so many levels. We're going through life, we're enduring, we're having hardships, we're fighting trials, we're fighting tribulations, and we're running around and we're saying, teacher, 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 I need your help. God, I need you. God, things are going on, things I don't understand. God, there's more money than I have bills. God, my health is failing me. God, my marriage is not well. My children are not well. God, I'm not doing good at church. Church isn't giving me what I need. I'm not doing well with me. My thoughts are overtaking me. I need your help. And the master and the authority is sitting there and he's saying, look, all I need for you to do is to be still, take a breath, and focus in on me. We read a familiar scripture that we quote all the time. Psalms chapter 46 and verse number 10 is the verse that we're going to go to. And you all know me, whenever I am reading a verse or wherever I am looking at something and, we're focusing in on it, I always want to understand, well, what came beforehand so that I can understand why this scripture is so important. And so in Psalms chapter 46 and verse 10, it simply is saying that I need for you to be still and know that I am God. We quote that, you see it on everywhere you go, everything that's there. But the amazing part about this, right before you get to verse number 10 and verse number 1 in Psalms 46, this is where and our strength. He's that ever-present help. When we are being still in front of God and when life is going on, you have to remember to understand the God that we serve. A couple of Sundays ago, Katrina had told us that we have to have the audacity to understand who God is. We have to have the audacity to tell our circumstances and tell the things that we're going through who our God is, instead of always running around and trying to figure out everything else for ourselves. Well, sisters, just like the little girl in the story, the authority figure told her that I need you to be still. See, being still requires you to trust. You all remember my definition of trust? Trust is that I'm going to put my full weight in God and believe that he can handle it all. So it's not just you saying, okay, God, I'm laying it at your feet. I'm laying it at your altar. God, I'm putting down what is that is bothering me or what's gathering me, and you say, okay, God, I've given, God, you're here, you sing a song, you praise, you clap, and you do everything else, and then when it doesn't show up and when God isn't moving fast enough, you start flailing around like that little girl. You start going, God, you don't understand, I need your help. And he's telling you, I need you to be still. And in other words, he's saying, I need for you to trust me, that I'm going to handle everything that you got going on. And not only trust it, but I need you to believe in who I am. And in that being still, that little girl had to surrender what she was going through. See, in being still and stillness, it's all about you having to surrender yourself. It's not about what you want. It's not about what you can or cannot do. It's about you saying, it's not my will, but yours. See, when the little girl was running around and the teacher was just sitting there and was watching her and was just watching her keep going, keep talking, God is doing the same thing. He's like, okay, daughter, all right. Are you ready to be still? Are you ready to trust in me? Are you ready to understand who I am? You have to surrender the weights that you have. Sisters, how many of us are carrying the weights of yesterday, carrying the weights of last week, carrying the weights of last month? How many of us are still carrying the weights of what you got going on in just this minute? You can't even focus on the lesson because you got too many weights that are carrying you and holding you down. And God is simply telling you, I need for you to be still. When you're still, that's when I can do all things. Will you surrender the weight on today, sister? Or are you still going to carry it around? Are you saying, God, I need you. God, help me, help me. And God is saying, I just need you to be still. And when you be still, I will step in and I will be and do all things. That's our first point, sisters, about being still. The second thing that the teacher and the authority figure told her was that I need you to take a breath. Psalms chapter 61 and verses 3 through 5, it says, you always have given me breathing room, a place to get away from it all, a lifetime passed to your safe house, an open invitation as your guest. You're always taking me seriously. God, you made me welcome among those who you know. See, when the administrator said, I need you to be still and take a breath, Taking a breath involves you literally not moving. When you try to hold your breath, do you realize that everything inside of you, all of your systems, everything that is within, it will begin to start to shut down because it needs the breath, it needs the air, it needs it for you to be able to take it in. See, God is saying, while I ask you to be still, while I'm asking you to trust in me, I need you to take a breath. It's in your breath that praise comes about. It's in your breath, in that moment of you taking that in, you have to pause. See, God says you're going through so much, sister. You're wearing so much. You're carrying so much weight that you can't even sit here and take a breath. So when this was written, it was literally saying, God, you've given me the breath. You've given me breathing room to place any and everything that I'm going through at your feet. That means God has given you permission, sister, to sit here and give it to him. That's why when Jesus was quoting, my yoke is easy and my burdens are light, he's making a reference because God has already said, look, I want you to be in my presence. I want you to give me everything that you have because that's why I've given you my covering. That's why I've given you everything that I possess. See, when we went down into that watery grave, you're not just getting Holy Spirit. You're not just getting a new name. You're getting every single thing that's attached to the power source that is the great I am. So when you're struggling, and when you got weights going on and you're trying to figure it out, trying to sort it out, when you keep going back to the same stuff and you keep getting tested and tried, that's when the audacity component comes into place. That's why Katrina challenged us. She said, will you have the audacity to try, God? Will you have the audacity to say, God, okay, it's yours. Just let me know when it's already handled. Are you going to have that factor? Will you be able to take a breath? Point number 3, after she said, be still, and after she told her to take a breath, she told the little girl that I need you to focus in on me. In that verse, in Psalms chapter 46 and verse number 1, literally it says, God is my refuge, always ready to help me in times of trouble. It didn't say that sometimes, it didn't say most of the time, it didn't say when I feel like it. God said always, always. That means forever, ever, and ever, yeah, forever, ever, always. He's ready to help and to be your on God. When you're relying on God, you're trusting in him. When you're trusting in God, you're allowing yourself to be released from every stronghold that is around you. All you had to do when you are in your circumstances and when you're in your trials and when you're in your tribulations, you've got to focus in on the master. Just like the teacher was telling the little girl, I need you to focus in on me. So many times we get so focused on the circumstance, we get so focused on the people, we get so focused on our emotions and what it is that we want to do and how we want to do it and why it's not working out on what we're doing, that you miss the mark and you miss the beauty of what God is doing in your life, in your present circumstance. That little girl couldn't understand what the authority figure was doing while she was and while she was trusting. See, the little girl couldn't understand that while she was being still and while she was focusing, God was at work and God was at play. God was being her refuge. And what the little girl didn't know was God was giving her power, or she was giving her power in the midst of it. That equates to you and I, sister. God, like all of the other circumstances, all of the things that you think you are messed up, you are dried up and just tangled up about, he's already working it out. You're not even understanding the magnitude of what God is doing. The little girl couldn't see that by her being still in front of the authority, that the other little kids stayed at bay, because they knew if they came over to the authority figure, they might get some of whatever was happening to her. Now, I don't know about you, Sister, but I take joy in knowing that when I am being still, when Tiffany lets go and she lets God handle everything, and when he takes control, and I just sit there knowing that God is God and that he is Abba, that he's daddy, and when I let him do what he's gonna do, everything else that might be trying to come against me has to stay at bay. That is an amazing, amazing point. And we miss that because we get so caught up in self, and we get so caught up in wanting to know what's going to happen, wanting to know the next move. It's not for you to do. That's not for you to have. Look, we were questioned. Will you have the audacity to trust in God? Will you have the audacity to hope? Will you have the audacity to know that God is who he says he is? One other point, Exodus chapter 3 and verse number 14. This is a familiar passage to some of us. You may not know, or you have, but this is where Moses is encountering the burning bush. And this is the first time in the Bible that God actually declares who he is. It doesn't come out too often, but this is the first time that God actually puts his name on something. And he actually says, look, I need you to say who I am, and I need you to understand the power that comes with who I am. So in Exodus chapter 3 and verse number 14, it literally says this, you guys. God replied to Moses, I am who I am. I am has sent me to you. God also said, say this to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. When the teacher was talking to the little, the things that God needs for you to do, and that I'm going to challenge you, say the name of our God and our Father. Yahweh. When it seems like nothing else left for you to do, when it seems like you are being consumed by the trials, by the tribulations, when it seems like you're being consumed by, when you're being consumed by you, God says, I need for you to open up your mouth, and I need you to utter up Yahweh. Yahweh literally is I am. When Moses is at this place, this is where God and him have their encounter with each other. And so he sees the burning bush. The bush is burning, but it's not being consumed by anything. It's not being burnt up. And this is puzzling to Moses, because he's like, this bush should be burnt up to a crisp, but it's sitting there just relaxing in the middle of the fire, in the middle of this. And God starts having conversation, and he actually prompts Moses and says, hey, I got a task for you. This is what I want you to do. And Moses is like most of us, when God is telling you what he wants you to do in your trial, in your tribulation. And we're like, like, no, God, no, like, this is, what am I supposed to do? You want me to go and do what? I'm supposed to allow this man to just be, but he hurt me. I'm supposed to allow that sister to keep going when I want to give her a piece of my mind. I want to get rid of my children, whatever you might do, insert your circumstance, insert what it is that you're not allowing God to do. And God says, yeah, I want you to do that. And God simply replies to Moses. He says, all I want you to do when people tell you or ask you who sent you, who gave you this authority, you just say, I am. I am translates into Yahweh. Sisters, I'm going to leave you with this on today. When you are going through your circumstances, when you're going through your trials, when fires of life are trying to consume you, and when you are being held, and when you feel yourself being in bondage and trying to be swallowed up, we too can be just like that bush that is on fire and everything else is around us, but we won't have to be burnt up because we have authority through Yahweh, through I am. It's a declaration of who our God is. It's a declaration of who we're standing still in front of. Sister, You have been toiling on this past week. You have been going through all sorts of trials and tribulations, and you're trying to figure out, how come I don't have the peace that I need? How come I'm not getting it? Because you have not had the audacity to say, I am. When you're going through your circumstance, when you're going through your trial, through your tribulation, I want you to say, Yahweh. When you don't know what's going on, when you can't figure it out, I want you to say, Yahweh. When somebody is coming at you and you are like, not today, you're gonna say, I'm not available, because Yahweh is in the midst of it. When you are finding yourself running around like that little girl, I want you to say, I'm gonna be still and I'm gonna take a breath, because my God says he wants me to give him everything, and I'm gonna focus in on the main thing. And the main thing is the Yahweh. He is the I am. He is the giver. He is everything that you and I need to get through all the trials, all the tribulations, all the stuff that you're going through. Quit running around and be still in the presence of God. Be still in your circumstance. Be still in the midst of it. And you better proclaim Yahweh. Because when you proclaim Yahweh, what happens? Just like that little girl, when the teacher turned her around and she saw that everything had to be at bay, and everything had to stand back, that's what happens in our circumstances, sisters. When you learn to be still, when you have the audacity to take that breath and give God your all, surrender it, and give it all over to him, he will turn you around, and you'll see every little hang up, everything that was trying to consume you, everything that you thought was designed to burn you and make you and destroy you. You'll be able to sit there, and in the midst of it, you're going to be looking around, and you're going to be able to say, it was Yahweh. It was him who made me be still. It was him who stood me up and turned me around. He placed my feet on that solid ground. It is Yahweh. Sisters, on today, somebody better proclaim it's Yahweh and be still and focus in on God Almighty. Rox, is back to you.
Mercy. Lord, y'all hollers, open your up.
Amen.
And just holler
Amen.
out.
Come on now,
Great
Tiffany.
message.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you so
Awesome
much.
job,
God is good.
Yahweh bless
That's
you
all
today.
I got this morning.